DC Public Charter School Board presents Uncharted Territory with your host, Dr. Michelle Walker Davis.
Behind every great school, there is a board, a group of people who believe so deeply in a school's mission that they volunteer their time, their expertise, and their judgment to make sure it stays on course. They are not in the classroom every day, but the decisions they make shape everything that happens inside it. As we celebrate 30 years of public charter schools in Washington, D.C., I want to talk about the people who govern these institutions, the board. The board chairs who sit at the intersection of vision and accountability and ask every day whether this school is truly serving the students and community it was built for. Welcome to Uncharted Territory, a podcast from the DC Public Charter School Board. I am your host, Dr. Michelle Walker Davis, Executive Director of DC PCSB. In this episode, we're exploring voices from the field, and today, those voices belong to two people who know what it means to govern a charter school with purpose, with accountability, and with an unwavering commitment to the students their schools serve. Board governance is one of the most important and least talked about parts of what makes a charter school. Today, we are going to change that. Let me introduce my guest. My first guest is someone who understands that governing a school is one of the most important ways a person can serve their community. Donte Prestwood is the board chair of Learn DC Public Charter School. He brings to this conversation the perspective of a leader who shows up not from inside the classroom, but from the boardroom, where the decisions that shape a school's future are made. Troy, welcome to Uncharted Territory. My second guest brings to this conversation a deep commitment to the students and community her school was built to serve. Fonda Sutton is the board chair of Haynes Public Charter School. She brings to this conversation a deep understanding of what it means to steward a school's mission, support its leadership, and ensure that every decision made at the board level ultimately finds its way to the students Haynes was built to serve. Fonda, thank you for being here. Troy, Fonda, serving on a public charter school board means carrying responsibility for a school and a community at the same time. What drew you to board service, and what has the experience taught you thus far about how governing a school can help you support the school's mission?
Sure. I'll start. First of all, thank you for having me here. For me, I've always been a servant leader. In my community, I've always been the guy who said, yeah, if you need someone, okay, I'll help out. I never really sought the limelight, but I'm always a good, safe default.
Okay.
I'm always a good fallback. And in this case, there were a group of parents in Ward 8 where I lived, where I was serving as an ANC commissioner.
Okay.
And I was a chair of the ANC that was near the site where they wanted to build the school. And I had some K-12 experience as far as leadership, as well as higher ed experience. And so this group of parents, Ward 8 parents, as well as military parents, reached out, and the rest, as they say, is history. What drew me to this role was the uniqueness of the type of school we were building, which it was centering parents who wouldn't ordinarily come together across that wall that divides Ward 8, the rest of Ward 8 from the base there. But what drew me to this was the opportunity to bring these two communities together that wouldn't ordinarily see each other and wouldn't ordinarily engage with each other, but for their children. And being in this role I've learned a lot. Certainly everything from managing a school that has some very unique differences to just ensuring that the communities are connected. That's the biggest, I think, not only challenge, but opportunity that a school like Learn DC offers me as well as my other board colleagues.
Yeah. Yeah, so I appreciate you naming that. I want to make sure that folks understand that this is volunteer service. I think a lot of people are confused what it means to serve on a charter board, and you could have served in so many other ways. You were serving your community as an ANC commissioner, but you decided to sign up for the school.
Yeah.
Why that particular service? I heard you speak a little bit about bringing the communities together, but if it's anything like the work I give my volunteer board members, this is not an easy side job, right? So say more about like how that's helped you fulfill that servant leadership that you mentioned.
Yeah, not easy at all. It also helped me grow as a leader. You know, I've never chaired a charter school board before, and so this was an opportunity for me. So I saw it as a growth opportunity.
Okay.
But again, I've served on various boards throughout the District of Columbia and elsewhere. And so for me, it was an opportunity to bring the leadership experience I had, hoping it would help, especially a startup school, which is what Learn DC was at the time. And also this idea of bridging the community. I'm such a big proponent of tearing down barriers, tearing down gates, in the case of Bolin Air Force Base. And so this was a chance to do that. Yeah. And I'm so happy I at least joined the board. I wasn't a board chair at the time.
I'm going to get back to that.
I was just a member who had experience in the community, who understood politics, and I had a communication background. So all of that, I think, helped the board. But ultimately, the reason why I did that school and not any other school was because it was in my home ward, and it was an opportunity to build bridges.
Yep. Fonda, you have quite a track record in education in DC, but tell me what drew you to board service, and in particular on a charter school.
Yeah, I've worked, I'm a lawyer by training, and I've used that training my entire career in education in DC. And I started when the charter movement was nascent in the city, and helped to found one of the first charters in the city. And then I went to work for a national organization and ran into an amazing visionary leader, the founder of E.L. Haynes, and helped her with the charter and with the original outreach for community. I was really drawn to the vision, that founding vision of the school as a diverse by design school. A place where students of all backgrounds would really, really have a great opportunity for exposure, for the ability to interact with innovations that were not typical in the traditional public schools at the time, and also it was serving students who looked like me. So that has been, that's my sort of origin story with E.L. Haynes. It's been sort of a full circle moment for me to come back and be board chair. There have been 3 leaders of E.L. Haynes over 21 years, and that's a great amount of stability of leadership. And I'm really excited to be working with a new leader as her thought partner and the chair of the board.
So let's talk about being the chair of the board. You sit at the intersection of vision and accountability. So talk to me a little bit about how you work with the school leader, how you both hold the mission in one hand, but are a supportive entity and force for that school leader. And sometimes you might have to push a little bit to ensure that the school lives up to its mission. So talk to me about being a board chair, and don't discourage others from taking on that role, but be honest about what does that mean?
Yeah, I really enjoy the thought partnership with our CEO, Ed Haynes. And I think that leading a school has so many dimensions and is such a hard job. Working in every space in the school is hard, but I can help a leader take sort of a balcony view and step back and ask questions that, that whether every decision we're making, what does that have to do? What is that going to do for students? What is that going to do for educators in the school to do their best for students? Because sometimes our leaders are in the everyday. and making those management decisions. And that is a really important distinction for board service. We are not day-to-day operations or management. We are governing boards, and that it's really important for us to stay in that lane and help leaders and educators in the school be, take a bigger view from the minutia that they manage every day.
Yeah, I agree here. I think we do sit in a balcony and we try to help our leaders sort of see the big picture. I think for me, our school, we are a single site LEA here in Washington in Ward 8. Our network is out of Chicago. And so our CEO is out of Chicago. All of our back office support is in Chicago. Most of our board members are, of course, here in Washington, but we even have board members who are from the Chicago National Board, because Learn DC is part of a network.
Larger network,
And, being the DC guy on the board, the only guy right now on the board, by the way, so I'm not discouraging anyone from joining the board, especially fellas. Come on, help us out here. But certainly, I look at my experience as someone who knows DC politics, who knows the district building, the Wilson building as we call it today, who understands the interplay between the executive and the legislative, and then also at the hyper-local level of the advisory neighborhood commission level. I understand that too. And here in DC, we like to touch our leaders, and we like to know that we can reach out and get them at any time and they will be responsive. And so, for me, I brought all of that to the conversation with my CEO and with our other, leadership team, because they didn't understand DC. They understood Chicago. And so my role was to help them understand how we do things a little bit different here. How the authorizer, PCSB, how you guys are far more stringent in how you review charters and approve them, or how you shut them down. They don't have that same level of oversight in Chicago, probably nowhere else really in this country other than Washington. So I had to help them understand that. And I'm a hands-on guy. I'm an entrepreneur. So I am a little bit hard-pressed not to say, let me go in here and sort of, roll up my sleeves.
That's your job.
You have a younger school, though.
I have a younger school.
So that is a different role.
Yeah, that's true, too. And, I try to, when I wasn't board chair, I tried to help, our CEO and our principal understand we're here to help. We don't want to micromanage. We could, but what good is that going to do if you all can't do your job? So I want to help you do your job and do your job effectively. I will take care of the politics of this. I need you all to take care of the education, the pedagogy that goes on inside those four walls. And so that was what I brought to the table that was different and unique to Learn, because again, they were out of Chicago, and we do mumbo sauce. They claim they did mumbo sauce, but we do mumbo sauce here in DC. So yeah.
I think there's a threat there of trust, a stewardship of trust.
Yeah.
And your local connection really embodies that. And, families entrust their students to our schools. The educators trust us to get them the resources and the things they need to do what they have to do. And students trust us to give them the education that's going to put them in a place where they are able to thrive. And so I think board service, we're always sort of managing that trust and every level of the organization.
I totally agree. And just to go a little bit further on this idea of micromanaging, there are boards that do that.
Yeah, they are.
And we also see a lot of, tension. We see a lot of discourse. We see failures in such an environment. So it is conducive on me and my fellow board members to remember that the school is there to be the school. They are the experts. We are here to do oversight. And of course, when things go wrong, I don't like surprises. Now, that's the one thing my board does know, and so does the school. I don't like surprises. Let me know what's going on so I'm not like, oh, Troy, did you hear about this? No, what? Let me check with my, CEO. But I will give them the space to do what they are supposed to be able to do as experts, unless I have to step in.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, it is you guys, the public charter school board, that holds us accountable, not the school. So we have to find that balance, and that's the battle, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good segue. We do like to say at PCSB that it's the board that holds the charter. And I know in terms of day-to-day activity, myself and my team, we deal a lot with school staff on the day-to-day goings-on of the school. But when we get to the point of reviews and when, unfortunately, we have to have tough conversations, it is a conversation with the board. So speak to me about, like, how do you stay abreast on the things that might be problematic? But I also heard in both of your responses that connection to community, right? Really focusing on how you make sure that your community knows that you're staying true to the mission. So talk a little bit about what that looks like when ultimately, at the end of the day, the board holds the charter, despite how much the school leader might be involved in those sort of day-to-day activities.
Well, he can say more about it, but JBAB was founded out of a community vision and a community process. So that is really unique in the ecosystem, in the sector, in DC. But I think that schools like Haynes, and I know that we do, ensure that teachers are involved, students are involved, and families are involved in lots of decision making. We're in a transition period with a new CEO at Haynes, and they were involved in that hiring process, deeply involved, not superficial involvement, but at every level. And also, as we think about what the next phase of Haynes will be, we're having working groups that involve students, that involve teachers, and that involve parents and families. And I think that those kinds of structures stabilize that trust that I mentioned before in where the school is going, how it operates.
Yeah. What does that look like for you, Troy? Like, how do you keep the energy that created Learn DC? How do you keep that community
That's
connection?
always the challenge. But it's also an opportunity there, right, to continue to invest in our young people and into, the systems that developed us. JBAB is an amazing military base, and I just want to give them a shout out, give a shout out to the commanders there, and just the entire team, because they have really wrapped their arms around us and our school and our young people, and they give them a great experience. And we had to cultivate that with the base command there, and we also had to help our parents on and off base know that this was a school for them. And so we still, we still have to do that work. It's still a churn. There's so many opportunities out there for us to engage outside the walls of the base. And that's what I've been pushing and sort of pulling on our school to do, because we are in Ward 8. The school is a Ward 8 school. And I need for everyone to understand that we're not just serving on base, but off base, because community is important to me. And so I continue to show up with that as my North Star at every board meeting when I do a walk by in the schools, or go and engage with young people and shake hands. I'm always thinking about community. How are we doing enough? And so, our school is very unique. And again, I try to show up with that passion and that energy so that it becomes infectious. And I hope it's doing the job.
Boards oftentimes, or at all times, have committees, and at Haynes we have a community relations committee for the board, right? And at every board meeting, I'm reminding our board members, these are the upcoming events for the school, these are the opportunities for you to engage and be present, right? And that gives us the feel for the lived experiences of everybody in the school, while we're making those governance decisions for Haynes.
Yeah, something you said made me go back to your earlier point, Troy, about the politics of this work. And so boards are connected to community, but very often I see board trustee members, and in particular the board chairs, playing an active role in advocacy, not just for your own school, but for the charter community. Could you say more about what that's looked like for you all?
Sure. I submitted testimony just last week on the bill that's before the DC Council around our facilities. To say we need to make sure that we are doing the investment. We understand we're not trying to put DCPS and DC Charter against each other, but there's money for facilities on the DCPS side. Let's just make sure we are focusing on equity across the board. And so that was my testimony. That was my written testimony as well. And I sent it one-on-one to each council member to make sure they got it, So yeah, we definitely have to do the advocacy work, and you're right. But I will say about Learn DC, it's on a federal military installation. Yes, we have done a lot to remove the barriers so that, families in the city, especially those in Ward 8, can be a part of that school. But it's not just local politics that I have to be concerned with. I have to be concerned with national politics. And so, I come in there fully aware of who I am and who I represent and where we are so that we, are very careful about how we move and how we show up at Learn DC. And again, that's helping our entire team understand what's at stake. But yeah, I'm a big proponent of, advocating. And not the other thing too, just very quickly, I've found that when we can find, our friends out there who are advocating for other things, but if we tell them what we're trying to do, usually they will say, okay, we can help you advocate for charter schools as well, more funding around facilities as well. Help us advocate for these things. So those relationships that you build, the community that you build in politics and in advocacy also helps as well.
I'm hearing that board members just have a different relationship and different sets of responsibilities than the school leader. And that partnership is key, and also playing your appropriate roles, taking on the appropriate burden. I can imagine most school leaders are happy for that.
Happy for you to
that
do
partnership.
that. They want to run their schools. Our school leaders are really good about being present in the political conversations that affect the sector, but they're mostly focused on running the school, and so that is another role that board members can play.
Well, as I'm sure you are aware, we are at a critical milestone in the charter movement in DC. We are at our 30-year mark of having charters in the District of Columbia. And yes, I know you were there, Fonda. We've had quite a journey in the District of Columbia. So as we recognize our 30-year anniversary this year, and you look at the DC charter school sector, what gives you the most confidence about where we're headed, and what advice would you give to trustees about where we're going?
I'll pull a thread from something Troy just mentioned about funding equity. I'm really, really proud and heartened by the mention of and the focus on equity in every aspect of the sector's work, be it funding, be it academic outcomes, be it facilities, because all of our children deserve to be in great buildings, to have great teachers, to have the best of facilities, right? I'm really, really heartened that we have that as the center in the sector. I think that we've come a long way from being the innovators and being not DCPS, and to a point where we're collaborating, right? We're serving children across the city who have a sibling in a public charter school and an older sibling who graduated from a DCPS school. And we have educators who move between those systems. And so there's been some really promising, movement around how our dual sectors work together. And I'm really heartened by that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that the big takeaway from this 30th year for charters is that parents now really don't see a big difference between between the two sectors.
That's right.
Largely that's because of how we enroll our kids, how we do the lottery, of course, but also because our charter schools are now our neighborhood schools in many cases, and they have staying power. I think in the beginning, there was a lot of openings and closings. Now we're somewhat steady. And I think parents appreciate that, even if they can't articulate that. But I know that from the big picture, these schools are strong and they're here to stay. And so the system looks like it is, it's graduated from high school, it's gone through college, has a business degree, working on a doctorate right now, right? That's 30 years. However, what brings me pause is that we do have a slowing economy. We also have a low birth rate.
Enrollment declines.
There will be, I mean, we're still seeing strength in the middle and high school,
Yeah.
but, you know, I think as a result of that, yes, so schools are going to have to compete harder for fewer students. But that doesn't mean it's all bad. I think we want to see more co-locations.
Okay.
So that, you know, we have these buildings that are great buildings, but we probably will see some consolidation, some co-locating, so that we can continue to offer a high quality educational option for parents. That is where I think the next 30 years take us. I think we probably become more integrated into the public educational system here in Washington, D.C., and continue to drive results. That's what makes me at least excited, but also gives me a little bit of pause about, you know, what's happening economically.
Yeah, I think that the some of the political headwinds and some of the financial uncertainty in the city is really going to test the skill of boards too, to ensure that there's great leadership, that there is there are great succession planning. And that there's really strong fiscal stewardship,
Yeah.
right? In addition to what the public dollars support in our schools, you know, beating the bushes for the extra dollars. I think boards will really have to lean into that responsibility.
Yeah, so I'm hearing in that acknowledgement and celebration that maybe there's a slightly different role for board trustee members going forward. So looking back, what do you wish you had known about this role? And in particular, for both of you, you're chairs. So I think a lot of people sign on like, I love the mission of the school. I want to be a part of this. And then a year, maybe sometimes even months later, you're being asked to chair. So say a little bit about like, what should a person who is interested in being on a board think about? What did you wish you knew at the time? What should they know signing up? How are they a part of shaping the next 30 years of charter schools?
I think really leaning into that alignment with mission. I run with the middle school girls and Girls on the Run. I ask my board members to help me show up at student performances and every celebration at the school. I think that is something. We are not just titular board members. We don't just bring our skills from our day job and a little bit of money, maybe, you know, for from the pocketbook. We also bring connection, which is something that we've talked about, and that really helps us help the school live out its mission. And I think that many people, when they think of boards, they think of governance and accountability, and not that connective tissue and the sweet parts of being a member of a board or a board chair.
Yeah, I agree with that. You know, there are some other fun things about being on a board. Like you can bring yourself. I can bring, you know, my connections at my work or in community to the school and have that be part of the curriculum, or have that be part of, you know, the experience that our young scholars are discovering, you know, for the first time. And so that's the other thing, is it's not just about the governance, but it's also about, you know, helping our young, bringing your whole self, your whole your community, your connections to help our young people flourish and thrive, right? What I wish I knew going into this is that it isn't just about showing up 4 times a year.
Yeah.
I was sold that it was. They were wrong. No, it's...
You don't even move that way, so don't even...
I know, but I knew I could do more and wanted to do more, but I think initially I was like, okay, well, how much of this time will this really take? You know, I can do it. You do have to go in there sober-eyed around the requirement of you, because at the end of the day, it's not just some, you know, random organization that you're chairing. These are children.
Yeah.
These are young, impressionable, young, you know, the next generation, young minds here. And so you have to be serious about the role. But, you know, I also think, you know, those who may be looking to do this in the future just understand that there will be some demands on your time. That you have to be serious about this, because this is about management. It is about oversight. And no, it's not taking control of the school, but it is making sure that all of the that the orchestra, if you will, is playing on the same page.
Yeah.
And that's the part that I don't know if I understood that going into it, but certainly having served in the role as a board member and now as chair, I see it for what it is.
Yeah.
But it's also, it can be fun. Just like, my partner here said, it can be fun. So just figure out what part of that do you bring to the experience, the educational experience of your school.
Yeah, I mean, I know the technical expertise that both of you bring to the role, but I got to say what I'm hearing here is mostly heart, right? Like you are wearing the mission of your schools. Like it is obvious that you represent your schools, and quite frankly, after the school leader, you are probably the most visible representation of your school. I have been guilty of telling board members, please join us and be a part of this mission, and then they find out how much work they have to do. So I totally get that, but you both have expressed a level of passion and commitment to your schools that I hope people who are looking about what this journey looks like recognizes that while it might be sometimes challenging work, while it is definitely detailed work, the reward is amazing. I want to thank you for your volunteer service to the District of Columbia and for your leadership of those two school communities. Learn DC, a very new school in our portfolio, and E.L. Haynes with a few more years, but both who continue to give to our community and shape young minds. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here and be a part of this conversation. And I hope that those of you who are looking are encouraged and impassioned to be a part of a charter school board. It is absolutely rewarding service. And
we have spots. We have
spots. Troy, Fonda, thank you for what you shared today. It is exactly what this podcast was created for. 2 board chairs, 2 schools, 1 clear belief. Then when people govern with a purpose, with accountability, and with genuine commitment to the students their schools serve, something extraordinary becomes possible. Board governance is not just a back office function, it's a form of leadership. And today you made that clear. If you are listening and you serve on a charter school board or you're thinking about it, I hope this conversation stays with you. Subscribe to Uncharted Territory so you never miss an episode. You can subscribe at dcpcsb.org/podcasts. Follow DCPCSB on social media and share this episode with a colleague who needs to hear it. I'm Dr. Michelle Walker Davis. This is Uncharted Territory. Until next time.